Back when I had deleted Instagram, I found myself scrolling on WhatsApp stories. I mean, seriously, WhatsApp stories. The problem continued till I addressed the underlying cause of scrolling and started doing things like meditation, journaling, or even embracing boredom. In this video, I want to share the 3-year update of quitting all social media and how it helped me and can help you be laser focused, conquer overthinking, and get life back on track. Back when I was on it, Instagram did not have Reels feed on it. So I was never really addicted to it. And I never had mobile data on my device because I didn't want to be the guy who picks up their phone every 2 minutes in a social situation. And maybe because I was a bit frugal. I have always been about developing myself. And when I got to know that social media exploits the dopamine system in our brains, even though I did not have the understanding of how dopamine functioned, I took a leap and decided to quit just because it was supposedly helpful. I went on and off Instagram before I deactivated it and quit it once and for all. And before quitting it, I felt how I'm sure you felt when you've thought of quitting social media. What if I get disconnected with my friends? What if I get disconnected with the world? Classic FOMO. But my experience post quitting was very different than what I thought it would be. I was thinking about this recently, and there's a reason why social media boils my blood so much. I don't really hate it per se. What enrages me is how people use it. Have you ever noticed that when you enter an elevator, people immediately take out their phones to avoid the discomfort of being in a confined space with another human? Recently, I entered the elevator with a delivery guy, and he took out his phone and he was just swiping the home screen because he had nothing else to do. I am willing to bet that the way you use social media and your phone is as a medium to avoid the slightest twinge of discomfort, whether that discomfort is out of suppressed uncomfortable sensations or emotions or boredom. In fact, we have gotten so aversive of just being bored that we would prefer shocking ourselves than just sitting with our thoughts and emotions. Seriously, there was a study conducted in which university students were asked to sit alone with a trigger to shock themselves. The students preferred to literally electrically shock themselves over just sitting with their thoughts and emotions. Reminds me of the quote, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. But although you might not believe it, I found gold in this very boredom. When I, despite the intense feelings of FOMO, decided to take the leap and deactivate Instagram, I had to face this horrible thing called boredom. And it was around the time of lockdown, and I had 16 hours of the day to myself at home. This was also the time I caught myself aimlessly watching YouTube videos and scrolling through WhatsApp stories. Also, there was a time during the lockdown when my phone stopped working and I didn't even bother to arrange a spare one. And my friends literally thought I was dead because of COVID. The only two alternatives of social media during this period I had was reading books and just plainly sitting in boredom. Although I used to occasionally indulge in psychological thriller and science fiction movies. I started devouring my self help books. And when I used to not read the books, I used to just lie down or sit in boredom and think about what I read and how it made sense to me. I vividly remember sitting on the chair in the balcony during the sunset and just enjoying the orange skies. Feels like ages ago. At a later stage, I started adding things like meditation and journaling, which made me into a whole different person. But even just plainly sitting in boredom, some very fascinating things started to happen. It helped me conquer overthinking. As you go about your days, your mind gets stimulated by the sensory information. Maybe you engage in a conversation, or you read some news, or you heard how your loved one is not well. But because you have to rush and catch the train, your mind shoves all that information from conscious mind to the subconscious mind. In ideal situations, we would have free time in our days where the mind could bring back all these stuff and process them. Why do you think that the people who disappear in the Himalayas come back feeling transformed? It was because their mind got the time to look at the stuff which they had been suppressing and avoiding in their busy lives. I was watching this guy on YouTube and he said, boredom is for mind, what sleep is for the body. And I cannot agree with him more. When we fill every second of our days with mindless consumption, which is nothing but more sensory information, our mind does not get the much needed time to process things. Think of what would happen. The fuck? Yeah, I'm sorry. Power cut. Think of what would happen when your body needs rest and instead of sleeping, you go out for a run. I think that the lack of free time or boredom in our days is one of the causes of overthinking. And this is also why when we try going to sleep or take a shower, all these thoughts that we've been trying to keep at the bay just surface. It made me more productive. When I have free time in my days, whether it is while traveling or just at home sitting, instead of filling it with consumption, even if it's a book or an informative YouTube video, I choose to sit in boredom. It helps me A, give a moment to be intentful and decide what I actually want to do instead of just defaulting to mindless consumption. And B, 9 out of 10 times, after sitting in boredom for a while, my mind comes up with a dozen of things that I can do, which are more productive than what I was initially going to do. That is social media. So instead of immediately opening video and watching a self improvement video to improve myself, when I choose to sit in boredom, my mind comes up with better things that I can do, that I need to do rather, like making an important list or even cleaning my room. This made me more intentional of my actions and helped me feel like I am in charge of my life. It made me more focused. There's this chemical in our brains called dopamine. And without getting into the details of what its functions are, it helps us be more focused and motivated. And social media these days is the best way to exploit this dopamine system. When I stopped exploiting this dopamine system and frying it and instead embraced boredom, within a month or so, my dopamine systems got reset and I was able to focus on simple and boring things like reading a book, exercising, or even cleaning my room. Any activity is fun when your mind is reset and accustomed to just sitting in boredom. It made me more creative. This YouTube channel and everything I come up with in a creative sense, I attribute to these three things. A, the books, the podcasts, the amazing information that I consume. B, the conversations I have with my friends around these topics. And C, boredom. As I mentioned in the first point, when we are doing nothing, our mind processes the information we received. And when I read all these books on science experiments, philosophy, and even spirituality, my mind made sense of it and looked at it from the filter of my experience. Basically, boredom helped me make sense of all that self help information and add a me element to it. Now I talk about how I address the root cause of social media, which helped me quit it in a sustainable and effortless way. In October of 2023, I went to a relative's place, and these guys were talking about the war happening in Palestine. And I had heard about it but did not know what exactly was happening. So I asked them. They were so surprised that I did not know about it because at that point it was everywhere and everyone was talking about it. When I had quit Instagram, the thought that helped me tackle the FOMO was if something affects me personally, I will inevitably come to know about it, whether it's what happening in the world or what my close friends are up to. This mindset not only helped me with FOMO, but also protected my mental peace from the excessively and overtly negative news that spreads across on social media. I was in the bliss of ignorance. But just this mindset was not sufficient, and I did not know it back then. When I took a leap and uninstalled Instagram, I was not aware that there was a deeper underlying cause, and that is why I often find myself looking for stimulation on YouTube or WhatsApp stories. Imagine you're this pressure cooker and there's this steam building up inside you, which are the emotions you're trying to suppress or avoid. Social media is like the whistle on top, which helps us release the steam and distract ourselves just long enough so that we can continue suppressing the steam. And this is why quitting social media is so difficult. It has something to offer us, it has a payoff, which is distracting ourselves from the suppressed emotions down there. And oftentimes this is so subtle and subsurface, we aren't even aware it's happening and we just reach out for our phones unconsciously. This is why plain quitting won't help, because you're now a pressure cooker with building up steam with no whistle or outlet, which is bound to blast. So all I did was I found a healthier whistle for me, which was letting go meditation and embracing boredom. But now I have more healthier whistles under my belt, like journaling and breath work. This is what used to happen to me. When I felt like I needed stimulation from social media, I used to just sit in boredom and my mind used to process all the self help books I read. After a while, my mind automatically came up with 1,000 alternatives, most of which were productive. This included things like meditation, tidying my room, or even studying. Boredom for me genuinely was the key element. It always started with boredom and then got to a healthier alternative or a healthier whistle. In fact, I feel boredom is so essential for my growth that till date, I have periods in my day where I just embrace boredom and do nothing, not even meditation, and I just let my mind ponder. We've been told to always be occupied and keep doing something, lest we be unproductive. Bullshit, I say to that. These days, I use social media, but the way I use it makes me more productive. After 3 years of embracing boredom and doing the letting go meditation, I have released enough steam from this pressure cooker that I have no time in my days when I scroll social media in order to escape discomfort. However, now I use social media as a tool, like a chef would use a knife, and not a desperate need like oxygen for the lungs. Whenever I feel the impulsive need for any stimulation, I start with boredom, even if it's just for 5 minutes. That gives me the time to be intentional and really think if I want to do that or not, or if that's useful for me or not. And because these sites have a strong pull to them, I believe intentionality will be our strongest tool to tackle that. And boredom helps with that immensely. So if there's a video that I genuinely find to be intriguing, instead of immediately mindlessly clicking on it, I put it to watch later and then watch it post my boredom time. Other times I need inspiration for this YouTube channel and I use YouTube for research. This way I'm able to use YouTube as a tool which makes me more productive instead of using as a way to escape discomfort. Although I must admit that occasionally, when some intense or strong emotions surface and I am too tired to process them, I will end up using social media, especially YouTube, as an escape. But that too will be a conscious and intentional choice. Trust me, if you're thinking about quitting social media, just go for it and it will be the best decision you ever make. But you can experience all of these benefits that I mentioned in this video without quitting social media. You can watch this video to know how.